Hello everyone and welcome back to a brand new episode. Now it's currently the end of February, which means it's time for the February garden tour. And because not much has changed in the garden since January, I thought I would also go through the plans with you as well. So yeah, not a lot has changed in the garden since January, but I mean it has only been a month and it's not a particularly busy time of the year, is it? It's still quite cold and we've still been having to dodge the rain showers, but we are working our way through digging the beds and we are nearly done. I think in the last video we had just started the end bed. That's now done, so that one's completely done. There's just the garlic growing this end and then obviously the asparagus the other end, but that's completely dug and weeded. This one is basically done. I mean there's some carrots growing here and some parsnips there, but I think we're going to actually dig the rest of the carrots up now because we did get quite a bit of carrot fly last year. We didn't protect them. We didn't put our, we usually put like a metre high mesh around to stop the carrot fly. But yeah, we got quite a lot of carrot fly last year, so I think we're just going to dig them up. But yeah, that won't take that long to dig over that little bit there, so that's basically done. The brassica bed is also near enough done. I mean, there's some kale there at the moment and some sprouts, so obviously when they come out we can just dig those areas over and weed them, and then that one's done. Again, there's rhubarb at the far end which is starting to show, which is very exciting. So yeah, those three beds are basically done. Hey Molly, I won't stand on you this time. The last bed to do is the old potato bed, which is the hardest one. I have started it, so I've done about a metre, but it's very hard going. I think I mentioned in the last video that that was the worst bed for us because there was quite a lot of couch grass in there, and obviously we didn't weed it as much as we should have done last year because the potatoes were there, because we were earthing them up. We couldn't really weed. So yeah, it sort of went to pot a little bit. So yeah, digging that and weeding that is taking quite a long time. I mean, I think that was maybe a couple of days digging that metre, but because like I said, there's so much couch grass there, so many of the white roots, it's yeah, it's hard work because obviously, you know, you're bending over all the time and it's just taking longer to dig because you're weeding a lot at the same time. But we will get there. Like I said, near enough 3 beds out of 4 is good. I mean, before we started digging them, I was thinking, oh, we're never going to do this. It's going to take too long. But yeah, I can see the light at the end of the tunnel now. But yeah, I think that's basically all we've been doing. We pruned the apple tree. There's 2 apple trees, established apple trees in the orchard, which were already here. Obviously, the Bramley, it's quite a nice size, so we just had to prune that a little bit. But the other apple, which we don't know what it is, but the other apple was huge, so we actually pruned it. This time last year we gave it a bit of a prune, and then we obviously let it be, and then we've given it another bit of a prune now. It looks quite drastic but it was too big, like we needed it smaller just so we were able to pick the apples. So yeah, that's been pruned and I've tidied up all the prunings from the orchard. Now the chickens are allowed in here. It means that the orchard can have a little bit of a rest because obviously we sowed the meadow seed last April. Yeah, I'm hoping that it's going to grow okay, but I mean only time will tell. So yeah, that's about it. We haven't really sown many seeds. I don't like to sow many seeds this early just because it's still too cold. And obviously there's not enough light yet, so I will start sowing seeds really in March, April time. And also what we do like to do as well, we like to sow most of our seeds direct. We did it last year, and it was really successful. So things like the beans and the Swiss chard, I think we sowed direct. There was quite a lot of seeds that we just sowed direct, and yet it worked out beautifully. So we're going to be doing that again this year. So there's no rush to sow. Yeah, and the chickens are just happy chickens. But yeah, that's about it for the garden tour in February. I think I'm going to talk through the plans with you all in the polytunnel, because it's quite nippy today. It's quite chilly, and at least I'll be out of the wind in the polytunnel, and hopefully it'll be a little bit warmer as well. Gosh, it is so cold out there. That wind is just, it's biting. So I've made myself a cup of tea, of course, and for all those interested, it's the apple and blackberry tea from Brew Company. Yeah, I do like my herbal tea, so tea is a must today because it's cold. I mean, it's a must every day. Anyway, let's get on with the plans. It's very exciting. I'm really excited about this year. I feel like, I mean, not that last year was an experiment, but because we moved and, you know, we're in a different location and we've got a bigger space, last year felt like an experiment in terms of how much to grow and how much we could fit in. And yeah, I mean, I still feel like we're learning. Like, we made quite a lot of mistakes last year. I think I might go through them first actually before I go through the plans. What we did last year that went bad. The chickens are right outside. I can see them. I hope they don't peck through the polytunnel because they know I'm in here, and they just want mealworms. So yeah, I hope they don't peck through. I'll be in big trouble. Right, so yeah, let's go through what I would change from what we did last year. And there were a few crops which we sowed way too many of, so that will change this year. For instance, where are we? Oh yeah, we grew way too many carrots. We had 6 rows of carrots. Can hear them. Sorry, I get distracted by the chickens so easily. Like, they are a very high source of entertainment. Yeah, we grew way too many carrots. So we had 6 rows of carrots, and bear in mind our rows are 6 meters wide, well, in length. So yeah, we had way too many carrots. I don't know why we sowed that many. I think the plan was to try and sow them successional, but we just never did for some reason. So we had way too many carrots, and we also didn't protect them from the carrot fly, which I mentioned earlier. So yeah, just way too many. I think the thing we need to work on a lot this year is the whole successional sowing, and making sure that we just aren't inundated with crops all at one time. We really need to work on that. So yeah, we had way too many carrots. We also had too many sprouts. So we had 3 rows of sprouts. Yeah, which was too, I mean, we've still got loads and they're fine. Like, we are eating them, but it was just too many for us. So I think this year we're just sowing 1 row of sprouts to see how that goes, because we didn't have enough broccoli. We only had 1 row of broccoli last year, so we're going to do 2 rows of broccoli this year, because we just tend to eat more broccoli than sprouts, and obviously you get more sprouts per plant than you do broccoli. So yeah, too many sprouts, too many carrots. We also had too much beetroot. Now, my dad is the only person that likes beetroot in our family, so a whole 6 meter length of beetroot. Oh, did we have? I think we had Do you know what? We might have had 2 rows of beetroot last year. Yeah, we had 2 rows of beetroot. My gosh. So yeah, way too much beetroot. We're just going to be sowing half a row of beetroot this year because like I said, it's just my dad that likes it, so that should be plenty for him. Also, the onions we are changing. So last year we had 2 rows of Stuttgarter and 1 row of Red Baron. All the Red Baron went really quickly because we prefer red onion to the white onion. So this year we're having 2 rows of red and then the 1 row of white. I mean, yeah, you just need to grow what you eat, basically, don't you? And yeah, if you eat more red onion, then grow more red onion. Like, it makes sense. I don't know why we didn't do it last year. Also, peas we sowed way too close together. We sowed the rows too close together. We were able to do it. It was just hard to get in between the rows to harvest. It was a complete sort of mess, and it just made life so much more difficult. So obviously this year we're going to space the rows a little bit further apart to make it much easier to harvest. It's just the little changes like that, isn't it? They're just like, you don't think they would matter too much, but like, it's just going to make life so much easier. And then last thing to really focus on this year is to actually harvest things. And it sounds ridiculous, but like, because summertime is busy for everyone in the garden, but with our business, like, that's the peak time, and we're usually away at the garden shows quite a lot in the summer as well. So yeah, there are quite a lot of times when we don't harvest things in time. For instance, the sweet corn, I think we only enjoyed about 6 cobs from there. The rest, like, we just, not that we forgot about it, we just didn't pick it in time, and it went completely to waste. And we were so gutted about it, because obviously, you know, we've been growing that from seed, tending to it, and then yeah, we just let it go to waste, and we were so annoyed with ourselves. So my aim for this year is to try and harvest things when they are ready to pick, make the most of the seasonal veg, cook more with the seasonal vegetables that we grow. And I also would quite like to look more into maybe like fermenting, or, you know, just storing and you know, making chutneys and things like that, actually using the stuff that we grow instead of just, you know, letting it go to waste, sort of thing. That's the plan for this year. I mean, I feel like I think that every year, and then summer just gets really busy, but I'm determined to do it. We'll do it. So yeah, that's just a few of the things that we would change for this year. Obviously, we're learning every year. I mean, I think I first got my allotment like 10 years ago, and I still feel like I don't really know anything about gardening. Like, it's just one of those hobbies, isn't it, where you're always learning new things and changing things. So yeah, that's what we would change for this year. Let's go through the plans. Let me sort my tea out as well while we're here. So for the people that have followed me for a while, you know I like to go a little bit overboard with the plans. Yeah, I do like to go a bit overboard. So I tend to do what I call like the serious plans, which are all on graph paper. That way you can get all the measurements exact. You can plan how many plants you need in each row, how far the rows need to be, what you're going to fit into each bed. Yeah, it's really handy to do a graph paper one. Let me show you last year's actually. So this was last year's, which is the whole kitchen garden plot, the polytunnel in a little flap there. So that's the graph paper one of the whole kitchen garden. So that was last year's, and I did start to draw up one for this year. That's the polytunnel bit. And then I thought, well, actually, that, you know, the whole main thing isn't going to change. So I just thought I might as well draw up the 4 vegetable beds on graph paper and just plan out the beds, because the other, you know, the main kitchen garden isn't going to change. The only thing that will really change is the vegetable beds and what we're growing in them. So yes, save myself a little bit of time doing that. And then I also got the watercolours out, because I haven't had the watercolours out for like more than 5 years, maybe even more than that. I just felt the need to create with paint. So I basically just drew like a prettier version of the 4 main vegetable beds. Obviously this isn't to scale, that's why I just call them the pretty ones. But yeah, it basically just says what we're growing in each bed. I also like to do a spreadsheet of when to sow things. This is last year's, I haven't printed out this year's one, with just what we're growing, the varieties, the spacing, how many plants we actually need, and then, you know, when we need to sow them, plant them out, all that gumph, so to speak. And then I also went overboard and did a watercolour version of the whole kitchen garden, like the graph paper one, but yeah, just pretty. So that's that one, with the orchard. Oh, orchard's down here. With the orchard there and the chickens and everything. What I will do is I'll probably actually flip the camera around, and then you can have a better look at the plans, and I can go through them in a little bit more detail for you. It'll also give me a chance to drink my tea. Right, so I'm just going to go through the plans quite quickly with you, just to give you a rough idea of the whole layout. And then, yeah, what I will do afterwards then is we'll go through all the varieties and all the seeds that we will be growing this year. So this is what I call the main kitchen garden. We've obviously got some lawn over here, and then the yard and the workshop and the house is all over there, but this is the main sort of working garden. So we've got the orchard down here with the chickens, you can see the little chickens there, the beehives, which are empty at the moment, and then there's a nice little picnic bench there. Then we've got the fruit cage, which has the raspberries, gooseberries and blackcurrants. There's the polytunnel, which we are sat in at the moment. Obviously this isn't here yet, but that's where the greenhouse and the potting shed will be going with the water butts. Then there's a raised cut flower bed, which will go here with dahlias and gladioli and things like that in. 2 more raised beds here with strawberries in, and there will be a big archway there joining the 2 beds together with some sweet peas growing on there. Then we have the 4 main vegetable beds, which are each, I believe, 6 metres by about 8.5 metres in size. So we've got the pergola, which again isn't there at the moment, but hopefully we'll be making it this year. A nice big metal pergola will go in the middle there with some climbing roses up them. This is all surrounded by a hedge, which we planted. When did we plant that? Just over a year ago anyway, we planted the hedge around there. And we've also planted an edible hedge around this area here and all the way up there, which again we only planted just over a year ago. So it's growing, but obviously it'll be a while until it's a nice abundant hedge. Then we have this little area here, which is the old pigsty, which we won't be using as a pigsty, we'll just be using as storage. We've got 3 compost bins, and yeah, this is just where the wheelbarrows and storage and, you know, the compost will go. We're going to sort of fence it off, so we can't really see it because it's not going to be a very pretty area, but it will be functional and practical when we need compost. So yeah, that's that little area there. Then we have these 2 flower beds here, which are just outside the kitchen garden and the lawn area. This one here has been dug. It needs rethinking and planning, and I need to sit down and draw a proper plan for this. I might need some help as well actually, but I'll cover that in another video, because we bought some plants for it last year and we just bunged them in. We didn't really plan it. It did look really nice, but I would quite like to plan this bed a bit more. And it's got quite a lot of roses in, which we need to move over to this one, but this one hasn't been dug yet. But yeah, they're just going to be full of flowers, and yeah, pretty. So that's the main kitchen garden area. So then we've got the 4 vegetable beds. Again, I've done them in the graph and then in the pretty. Obviously this one is to scale. We know how many rows we can fit in and how many plants we need. And yeah, this is just the sort of visual pretty one. But what I think I'll do is I will turn the camera back round and I'll go through this along with all the varieties and the seeds which we'll be growing. But basically what we do is we rotate them at the moment because we're currently no dig. I hope to change that next year and go to no dig. But we've got the potato bed, the brassicas and the sweet corn and pumpkins, then the beans bed, and then this is basically the root / other bed. But yeah, so we have rotated them, and the potatoes were there last year, so we rotate them around that way. But yeah, I will turn the camera back around and we will go through all the seeds and the varieties which we're growing this year. Drink that before it gets cold. Right, let's go through all the seeds which we'll be growing. They all arrived, I think last week actually. I was a little bit late in ordering them. Now I usually like to order the vegetable seeds from King's, and then I order all my flowers from Chiltern Seeds. And then there's like random ones which you pick up in the garden centre, which you didn't go in for, but they came home with you anyway. So there's a few random ones in there. These are actually quite pretty. They're from National Trust, but the packets are just very pretty. I do like pretty looking things. So yeah, all the seeds are here. Very exciting. I have the list here which I can go through. I sat down and did it actually the other night because I thought it would just be easier than trying to remember. My memory is not the best. Right, let's go through the potato bed first, which is obviously just full of potatoes, although there is rhubarb in the far end of that bed. So this year we are growing 2 rows of salad potatoes, and we can fit 21 of the potatoes in each row. So we are growing 21 of Charlotte and 21 International Kidney, which are Jersey Royals, which I love. They're my favourite. So yeah, 2 rows of the salad potatoes, and then we have 8 rows of the main crop potatoes. Last year we grew King Edward, Maris Piper and Cara. This year we're growing King Edward, Maris Piper, and because the garden centre didn't have Cara in stock, I panicked and just brought Desiree instead. So we've got King Edward, Maris Piper and Desiree. And yeah, there's 8 rows. We can fit, I believe, 15 potatoes in each row. So we are growing 3 rows of King Edward, 3 rows of Maris Piper and 2 rows of Desiree. So yeah, there'll be 45 King Edward, 45 Maris Piper and 30 Desiree. So quite a lot of potatoes, but we do eat potatoes a lot. I mean, they're so versatile, aren't they? So yeah, that's the potato bed. Yeah, I have got the potatoes, so I'll be putting them out to chit. I do actually need to do that. I bought them the other day, so yeah, I will put them in like a little tray and let them chit. Brassica bed next. So not much is changing with how we did the layout of the bed last year. It did work quite well, although like I said earlier, we are growing less sprouts and more broccoli. I think that's the only thing we're really changing. So with the brassica bed, we have 1 row of sprouts, and we can fit 14 plants in 1 row. So there'll be 14 Bridget F1 sprouts. Then there's 1 row of cauliflower, so there'll be 14 autumn giant cauliflowers, 2 rows of broccoli, so 28 Iron Man F1, 2 rows of cabbage. Do you know what? I think we're going to have half a row of the red drumhead red cabbages because I really like them. And then I think obviously there's going to be 1.5 row, which will be a mixture of, I want to say Virtus. And what's the other one? I didn't write them down because I don't think we've really... Oh, Golden Acre Primo and Virtus. They're the ones we're growing. I don't know why I didn't write that down. And then we're going to do the 1 row of kale like we did last year. Half will be Midnight Sun, which is the curly. It's like a purpley one. And then the other half of the row will be the Nero di Toscana kale, which again is my favourite one. Then we've got 1 row of swede, which is called Tweed. And then also in the brassica bed, we've got the block of sweet corn. And that will be a block of 25 sweet corn plants. They are swift. We grow them every year. They've always been very good. We just need to remember to harvest them in time. Then amongst all of that will be the squash. So we are growing butternut squash, butternut hunter, and then also crown prince. So there'll be 2 crown prince and 4 butternut squash. I love squash so much. We didn't have much of a harvest last year actually, but hopefully this year will be a bit different. So yeah, there'll be 6 squash just rambling around between the sweet corn and everything. Then there'll also be 2 wigwams with 4 Jack B. Little pumpkins growing up them. They're the little tiny pumpkins because for some reason I can't buy Munchkin pumpkins anymore. But Jack B. Little are exactly the same. They just don't have as much as a cute name as Munchkin pumpkins. And then obviously there's the row of garlic which is already in there growing nicely. So that's the brassica bed. The bean bed was our best bed last year, and we're not changing anything apart from making the rows between the peas further apart so we can harvest them. We're not changing anything else. So I'm going to have the row of calendula along the edge of the path again, which will be the mixture of Indian Prince and a touch of red buff, which I do every year because I like the pink buff ones and the orange together, just look really nice. Then there'll be the 2 rows of broad beans again, the Aqua Dulce Claudia. There'll be 82 plants of them. Then we have the 5 double rows of peas, which are a mixture of Early Onward and Hurst Green Shaft. 2 rows of runner beans, which are Moonlight. And I've got down here, there's 62 plants of those. Also growing 3 courgettes. Last year I grew 3, and we did originally think that it was too much. But the chickens really liked them as well. So if there was ever a time when we didn't harvest one in time, I just gave it to the chickens and they really enjoyed it. So I just thought, I'm just going to grow 3 again because, you know, if we don't eat them, the chickens can enjoy them as well. The variety of that is Sunstripe, which is a yellow one. I like to grow the yellow ones just because they're easier to spot. Sounds really odd. But they're easier to spot amongst the green leaves. So yeah, they're a lot easier to know when to harvest because you can see them. It's not like you miss them and then suddenly they're like this big. And then there's 2 wigwams with borlotti beans on them. And there's 8 borlottis per wigwam, so 16 altogether. They are the Lingua di Foaca. Don't know if I'm saying that right. And also up the wigwams there will be so 2 Jack B. Littles on each wigwam, so 4 more Jack B. Littles, because again, yeah, I really like them, they're delicious. So that's the bean bed with the lavender. So the lavender goes along the edge, the top edge of this bed and the next bed. Again, that's growing really well. I can't wait for it to be huge. So last bed is the root/other bed. And in there we have 3 rows of Swiss chard. Now you all know how much I go on about Swiss chard. I love it. Again, we did think about growing less because 3 rows is quite a lot, but yeah, again, the chickens really like it, and we use it all the time. I make quite a lot of quiches with it, which we freeze, which, yeah, is really good. So 3 roses, perfect. That variety, where are we, is Rainbow Lights. And again, I've got 63 plants down here, which, gosh, it just sounds like a lot, doesn't it? Anyway, we've got 3 rows of onions, 1 row of the Stuttgarter white variety, and then 2 rows of the red onion, Red Baron. And here I've got we'll have 41 Stuttgarter and 82 Red Baron. I mean, onion stores really well anyway, doesn't it? So that's no problem. It's fine. And then there'll be 1 row of shallots. I don't have the variety down because the garden centre didn't have any. So I need to find some. But yeah, there'll be 1 row of shallots. 3 rows of leeks, which are Musselburgh. Again, we grow this. I mean, we didn't grow it last year, but we tend to grow this variety all the time, and it's a really good variety. Then there'll be 2 rows of flowers, and I don't have which ones will be there. I have a few which I'm going to sow, but I don't know which ones I'm actually going to be planting out in the vegetable patch yet. But I'll go through the flowers in a second. And then we are trying celery for the first time this year, which is I'm really excited about it, actually. I do quite like celery. I don't know why we haven't grown it before. I suppose I've always thought it's a difficult one to grow, so we just haven't bothered. But we're going to try this year. So this will be 4 half rows of celery. Where are we? And they are golden self-blanching variety. And then in the other half of that bit, we're going to have, 1 half row of celeriac, which never grown again, giant Prague, 1 half row of fennel, again, have never grown it before, that is Romanesco, and then 2 half rows of Boltardi beetroot for my dad. Then we've got 1 row of parsnip, which are the Gladiator variety, and 3 rows of carrot, which will be a mixture of Amsterdam Forcing 3 and Autumn King 2. And again, like I mentioned earlier, we're going to try in successional grow them, so we're not just inundated with carrots. And then, yeah, there's a globe artichoke in the corner, which I might actually just go and buy one just to save sowing it. But yeah, that's the main vegetable beds and all the varieties. I hope I didn't go through it too quickly. I do realise how much I talk when I start talking. It's quite hard to stop. But with the flowers, I feel like I'm not really growing many this year. I feel like my main priority is on the vegetable side of it. We haven't really got the flower beds sorted yet or planned out. And yeah, for some reason they're just the flowers are just at the back of my mind. So I am going to grow a few. There's going to be some sunflowers, obviously the calendula, sweet peas. I've sown some cornflower because I love cornflower. And I've also got seeds for feverfew, chamomile, amimagus, nigella, alchemilla mollis, lunaria annua, floristil as well. So there's a few which I'm going to be sowing. I just don't know where they're going yet. But we'll figure that out. We'll figure that out later on. We'll find room for them. We will. And then I've also got some dahlias as well, which I will probably just put for now into the flower beds because the cut flower raised bed we still haven't got. But yeah, the flowers I'm not really focusing much on at the moment. Do you know what I do need to go through? The polytunnel. We're sat in it. Where is that little plan? So I will show you a close-up of the little polytunnel plan. I mean, it's not that interesting. So along this side is going to be the tomatoes and the cucumber. And there will be 22 tomatoes altogether. Again, we've got we've got Sun Gold variety, which we're going to be sowing, and I think we've got Gardener's Delight. I think there's another one which I haven't written down, which is helpful, isn't it? But yeah, there's going to be 22 tomatoes altogether, and only I think 3 or 4 cucumbers, or maybe just 2 cucumbers. I think we had 3 cucumbers last year and a gherkin, and they were prolific. Like, we were overrun, but again, chickens really liked them, spoilt chickens. So yeah, we are growing Mini Munch and Merlin cucumbers. Not growing gherkins this year because I pickled some gherkins and we just had so many, like I just didn't know what else to do with them. So we're not growing gherkins this year, just the Mini Munch and the Merlin cucumbers. So that's all going this side, and then on the other side we currently have 4 rows of salad potatoes, international kidneys, at the far end, and then we will have 6 sweet peppers. Again, I don't know the varieties. I should have planned this video out a bit better, shouldn't I? But there'll be 6 sweet peppers, and then there'll be 14 rows of salad, which will just be your basic salad stuff, you know, like lettuce, spring onion, radish, rocket, you know, all your basic salad stuff. And again, we're going to try and successional sow them, so we've got salad throughout the whole sort of year. Then we've got 2 new things. We are going to try to grow melon. We're going to try at least to grow 1. I mean, it'd be nice if we got more than 1. And that variety is Blenheim Orange. So there'll be 1 melon and 1 loofah plant. I've always wanted to grow my own loofah, and I've seen quite a lot of people do it on Instagram, and I was like, do you know what, I'm going to try. So yeah, very excited about growing the loofah. And I did actually learn, because I was a little bit confused, because some people call him loofah, some people call him loofah. But loofah is the gourd, loofah is the dried sponge inside. So there you go, little fact for you there. Yeah, that's it. That's all we're growing this year, and all the varieties we're growing. Last thing I think I will say about the whole planning thing is it's quite handy to have a diary. Now, some years we start off really well with the diaries, like we write in there like every day or every time we do something, and we write in there. But I'm very determined to carry it on through the whole year, because it starts to dwindle out a little bit. Obviously, when you get a bit more busy, you forget to write in it and stuff. But yeah, basically just write in there whenever I do a job in the garden, whenever I sow something. Sometimes I write the weather down. It's really handy to look back on next year, just to know when you sow things, and you know, just when you do things in the garden. Really, really handy. So yeah, it's nice to have a diary. But I think that's about it for this video. Yeah, I've probably talked for way too long. But yeah, I really, really hope you enjoyed the video, and the little bit of tour. Like I said, not much has changed. It will probably start to get quite busy now, especially with the sowings. Once it starts to warm up in March, I'll start sowing things, and then obviously start direct sowing maybe April time. But yeah, very, very exciting time of year. I hope you enjoyed the video. Thank you so much for watching, and I will see you in the next one.